This week's episode was brought to you by Mark Swander and Joe Williams. Thank you, Mark Swander and Joe Williams. It's with the generous support of listeners like you that we get to keep powering the plasma-induced microgravitic pyramid displacement field, which keeps our secret base hidden from the ground-penetrating radar satellite death beams intended to overheat our computer's mainframe thermal capacitors and prevent you, our agents in the field, from hearing this encoded message being sent directly into the device surgically wired to the small bone of your inner ear, which automatically translates this recording into a sound other than loud chainsaw noises. If you would like to help us power the plasma-induced microgravitic pyramid displacement field, please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where your monthly donation of only $5 gets you unlimited access to our entire library of uncensored chainsaw noises in convenient RSS feed format, compatible with your podcast player of choice. But that's not all. Sign up now and I'll send you a 5x5 vinyl sticker of our Big Bunny Baphomet cover art sent directly to you at no additional cost. And if that's not enough, you'll be given the secret keys to our Discord server where Deer and Buffalo play. This week sees us continuing our ongoing discussion about the rise of Satanism, both ancient and modern, by celebrating its prolific founders of the 20th century, the Beast, Aleister Crowley, Antichrist, Jack Parsons, but especially the Black Pope himself, Anton Lavey. But let's not forget Beast number 2, Michael Aquino, leaders of the Church of Satan and Temple of Set respectively, to explore their revolutionary philosophy, satanic rituals, and what it all has to do with confusing Egyptian gods, living your best life, and of course, the devil. Thank you, and enjoy the show. What do you guys want to talk about, in the opening of the show?
We talk about penis Satan.
Yeah, who is this penis Satan?
In Vancouver, we had someone put up a statue of Satan in East Van. It was really close to the East Van cross, and it was basically just a big old statue of Satan that was red, and he had a penis. It was called Penis Satan. And then people flipped out and they took down Penis Satan. So now people are going around, I guess, putting up stickers that says summon Penis Satan. And there's just like one of those QR codes that takes you to a 3D rendering of Penis Satan.
Nice.
Penis Satan. Look at my wee-wee. Look at my dong.
I think Penis Satan was way cooler than the East Van Cross. Wait, didn't the Church of Satan do something kind of like that? They put up a statue of Baphomet in response to a Ten Commandments monument or something?
I remember that.
That's the Temple of Satan.
Was it the Temple of Satan?
The Temple of Satan.
Okay.
They just do politics. They don't do religion.
Yeah, it's in Salem, Massachusetts, I think. It may have been in Massachusetts.
That's the Baphomet without any boobies.
I believe so.
They just turned Baphomet into a man.
Should have had at least one tit.
Baphomet was too androgenic for the Temple of Satan. I like how they took the Church of Satan and the Temple of Set, and they just went, "Ugh, Temple of Satan, done." Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Whole Rabbit, where we don't just tell you that Satanism is nothing more than an accessible, safe outlet for one's atheistic, liberal social politics and little else but championing an aesthetic that irritates only the most inane morons ever to drool upon the face of the green earth. Nay, we reveal the slithering, brimstone-scented, phallus-waggling, red underbellied belly of the theistic satanic movement as it blossomed from the black soil in the rejected corners of Anton Lavey's soul, because this week we're discussing the rise of Satanism as it evolved through the turn of the century unto the modern day. I'm your host, Hack Rabbit. I'm joined this week by co-hosts the deliciously malicious Mari Sama. The mischievous man-thing of Mentu, Malachor 5.
It's really hot.
And the lady of the two Sechems, Heka Astra.
Hello.
People are always saying Satanism is totally atheistic. And because the Temple of Satan mostly expresses itself politically without a deeper religious counterpart, that's all Satanism is. But that's not how it began.
We're going to talk about Aleister Crowley again?
When I was a young lad, I discovered a copy of the Satanic Bible by Anton Lavey at my local bookstore. It was mixed in with various glossy-covered books on astrology, meditation, and tarot cards. When I shared his words with my friend Paul, a bassist I used to jam with, He wasn't particularly impressed, and he advised, "Why don't you check out real Satanists? You know, ones who actually worshipped and believed in Satan." After all, the Satanic Bible had clearly atheistic foundation. The Judeo-Christian boogeyman was used symbolically, and for aesthetics. Like who? I replied anxiously. He sent me a link to Aleister Crowley's Wikipedia page, and I was perplexed. Who was this Aleister Crowley? Did he really believe in and worship Satan? So even though we're not focusing on Aleister Crowley, there's no way to exclude him entirely, especially in the opening chapters, because Aleister Crowley is to Satanism a lot like what Robert Johnson, Howlin' Wolf, and Leadbelly were to Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, and Nirvana. There's just no metal without the blues, just like there's no Satanic Age without the Aeon of Horus, initiated by the great beast, 666, Aleister Crowley.
It's kind of funny, and it makes a lot of sense now when you think about it, that like all this magic stuff is happening with Crowley and Satanism and about Aquino, that the music also kind of evolved with it too. It was some blues stuff, and eventually rock and roll comes out, and it's explicitly using the same imagery.
They do kind of mirror each other, don't they? The rise of the blues as it turns into rock and roll and then metal music. The reason I bring this up is because if you love Slayer, or if you listen to Metallica or Rage Against the Machine, you don't need to love listening to Robert Johnson or Muddy Waters or something, but it's good to know that it came from there. It's good to know the evolution of what you're into. So you really have to bring up Aleister Crowley. There really wouldn't be a Satanism without it. Now, in the satanic lore, Aleister Crowley is considered the first beast. And of course, he's considered that in Thelemic lore. But why is Aleister Crowley considered the beast? What does it have to do with Christianity and the Bible? Well, prior to Aleister Crowley becoming the most prolific occultist of the 20th century, little Edward Crowley was brought up within the Plymouth Brethren, a cult-like group of Protestant Christians from Dublin who split off from the Anglican Church in 1831. As such, living under such a strict Christian upbringing afforded Crowley access to only one children's book, the Holy Bible. Likewise, when little Edward Crowley was being naughty, his mother made a habit of calling him the Beast. And Crowley, being quite a bit more familiar with the revelations of St. John than most children his age, knew exactly what his mother meant. And while historians and podcast dweebs like myself will be quick to point out how prophetic that would be, Crowley's association with the Beast of Revelations would not become a truly important part of his story until much later. During his early years as a fledgling occultist, Crowley sought divinity on lonely mountaintops, in poetry, mustachioed mentors, and eventually the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, which, besides placing heavy emphasis on Christian symbolism and themes, maintains a belief in a secret group of benevolent wizards loyal to Jesus Christ, which oversee the evolution of humanity. They are known as the Great White Brotherhood. It was only through Aleister Crowley's ambitions to become good enough to join the infinitely benevolent Great White Brotherhood did he arrive at becoming an actor in the evolution of Western spirituality and religion, which made appropriate for him the title of the Beast. Contrary to cartoonish oversimplification, Crowley's association with the Beast of Revelations is not due to his outright opposition to Judeo-Christian religion, but by applying a theological mechanism Crowley was familiar with during his Christian upbringing, dispensationalism. According to dispensationalism, each age of God's plan is thus administered in a certain way, and humanity is held responsible as a steward during those specific times. As such, Crowley's role as the Beast was not meant to disrupt God's plan, but to become an unstoppable agent of it and mark the exact place where the old age would end and the new one would begin, using ancient Egyptian mythology as the measuring stick. But what does a bunch of confusing Egyptian stuff got to do with the devil? Because doing this makes Jesus Christ and the mysteries associated with him just one phase of an ongoing construction process in terms of the human soul, rather than the absolute terminal ending point by which absolutely everything is measured. Further still, Jesus Christ is conceptualized as a manifestation of the Egyptian father god, Osiris, in a similar fashion to how Hinduism might understand Krishna to be an avatar of Vishnu, or Hanuman an avatar of Shiva. When looking at the world in this light, it becomes rapidly apparent that Christ, Yahweh, Allah, and even the Buddha can be considered avatars of Osiris. Likewise, from the eyes of the Osirian spiritual establishment, the apocalypse is the sign of the end, while to the children of the new dispensational age, the apocalypse is the sign of the beginning. By delivering the Book of the Law, Aleister Crowley had established himself as the Great Beast and was referred to by himself as such critics and followers alike, earning him the honorific the Master Therion. For this reason, the Church of Satan spin-offs, the Temple of Set, they recognized Crowley's beast status, claiming their leader, Michael Aquino, as the second beast.
Bible time.
Bible time. Who wants to read the Bible?
Mari?
Yeah, I guess I'm the only one whose skin won't burn.
Yeah, because it's fur.
Okay, whatever you say. Revelations 13, line 6. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. Line 7. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations.
Aleister Crowley.
Sounds like Globo me. When you're talking spiritually, if you can relate different religions to each other, wouldn't that bring people together in some way?
It would, actually.
So it may not be a bad thing. That's like the same thing as how, some people view the apocalypse as a bad thing, but it really is the end of now and the beginning of something new.
The etymological roots of the word mean an unveiling. It has nothing to do with actual destruction and ending of things. It's just simply unveiling.
You know how the Hindus have the yugas and the yuga cycles?
Mm-hmm.
Crowley's making it like that, and we refer to it that way sometimes on the show, the Age of Osiris, etc.
So some of what you're saying too, it kind of makes the point that the ancients knew that there was like a cycle of cycles within a cycle, and they knew their place. We're supposed to be at the end of one right now. I guess that would be Pisces. The Jesus fish symbol, it still stands kind of, and it's coming out of phase into a new one, which would be the Aquarian man and
the
technology and stuff.
Of the Age of Aquarius.
Which is interesting because Aquarius is also a symbolism for like the higher consciousness of the entire race of humans. Mm-hmm. So if you think about it, the information age, like, how our technology got such that we're all interconnected now in like this seamless way. Everything about our reality is reflecting this change. I think Crowley did pilot this. Like he was, in a sense, the bringer of this age. Things like, didn't he changed the tarot too and added the divine feminine into some of these traditions that used to be part of these ancient religions. So I think that has a lot to do with it as well. Bringing in Babylon and
Crowley's Hebrew letter association to 4 different cards, it would create a double loop in the zodiacal layout of the path working. It's hard to describe, and it's not the point of this episode, but there's some proof that the ancients knew, in terms of like around the time when the Bible was being written, they were aware of these big celestial cycles. Magicians use it for power. They can see their opportunity, perhaps. At least that's my interpretation.
Paradigm shifts happened there.
Whether you believe it or not, like around the time that Jesus was said to be around and born and die, something began there. That was a start of an age. We know this in the stars. It's just an interesting correlation if that story is true at all. How our world changed from then to now, where it seems like that's happening again, and why you got Bible people like going up in arms like, oh, it's the Antichrist here again, and it's like...
You're good.
Now, beyond making Egyptian deities central, much of the moral philosophy in the Book of the Law would undeniably become the cornerstone of Lavey's Satanism just a few decades later, and outlines some of its best selling points as ontological truths of the new aeon. The ideas of indulgence versus abstinence, combined with equal parts atheism and self-deification, both core ideas to Lavey's Satanism, were declared decades earlier in Chapter 2 of the Book of the Law. Chapter 2, line 22. I am the snake that giveth knowledge and delight and bright glory, and stir the hearts of men with drunkenness. To worship me, take wine and strange drugs, whereof I will tell my prophet, and be drunk thereof. They shall not harm ye at all. It is a lie. This folly against self, the exposure of innocence is a lie. Be strong, O man, lust, enjoy all things of sense and rapture. Fear not that any God shall deny thee for this. Line 23. I am alone. There is no God where I am. Even Crowley himself would take a number of years to warm up to the words he had supposedly channeled while penning the Book of the Law. Even once he had, his corresponding religion of Thelema would fail to grab the world by the balls the way he imagined it would. Arguably, the closest it got was attracting the young upstart co-founder of Jet Propulsion Laboratories, Jack Whiteside Parsons, who was poised to bring Thelema into the burgeoning space age, turning his Pasadena mansion into a revolving door for counterculturally minded collaborators, just like Anton Lavey a few years later, even taking upon himself the title of Antichrist. Infamously, with the help of L. Ron Hubbard, Parsons initiated the Babylon working of 1946, a ritual intended to immanentize the Aeon of Horus by strongly invoking his feminine counterpart, Babylon. During or shortly after the Babylon working, a number of interesting events occurred. The discovery of the Nag Hammadi Library, the first meeting of the United Nations, the birth of David Lynch, Ho Chi Minh gaining Vietnamese independence from France, bikinis going on sale in France, the United States putting its first rocket into space, the Roswell incident, and the founding of the American CIA.
Boo!
What's wrong with bikinis?
No, the CIA and the United Nations. Boo!
Written in the wake of the Babylon working, Jack Parsons' masterpiece, Freedom is a Two-Edged Sword, continues today as one of the finest essays on freedom ever written. Its section labeled The Witchcraft prophesizes the dawning of the Satanic era. We are the witchcraft, and although one may not know another, yet we are united by an indissoluble bond. And when the high, wild cry of the eagle sounds in your mind, know that you are not alone in your desire for freedom. And when the howl of the wolf echoes in the forests of your night, know that there are those who also prowl, and when the ways of your fellows about you seem the ways of idiocy and madness, know that there are also others who have seen and judged and acted. Now know that the power that we serve lies in the heart of every man and woman, as the tree lives in the seed. And to be with us, you have but to call upon that power, and you are as one of us. And when our power and joy have come upon you, you may go forth and do your will among men, and none shall say you nay. Sadly, Jack's life was cut short when he accidentally blew himself up moving explosive chemicals in his lab in 1952.
Wah, wah.
But he really wanted the whole satanic age. He wanted it.
I'm sad he got blowed up.
I mean, if he hadn't been on his way to building rocketry for Israel, maybe he would have sat around in some black house in San Francisco and attracted a bunch of new followers, but it's hard to say because blew himself up. What are you gonna do?
I think he was assassinated.
LAPD. That's the sound of la police.
Whoop, whoop.
It was during this time the mythic Anton Sandor Lavey was, as he claims, carrying on a fling with the then unknown Marilyn Monroe while performing gigs at nightclubs, bars, and burlesque houses on the Oregon, for which he was known to be a true genius. According to legend, Anton was a high school dropout who ran away and joined the Clyde Beatty Circus to become a cage boy for big cats and play the calliope, a sort of organ made of train whistles.
So random.
He ran away and joined the circus.
Yes.
Awesome.
True story.
There, he honed his musical skill and prolific talent for both entertaining and learning the uncanny peculiarities of normal people. To avoid being drafted into the Korean War, Anton began studying criminology at the City College of San Francisco. Legend tells that Anton also made money working as a psychic, which he claims to have used with the San Francisco Police Department on psychic investigations when he wasn't doing his normal rounds of crime scene photography. Also definitely a true story.
It sounds like a sequel to the Psychonauts, the video game.
That stuff always intrigues me, like the psychics used for crime scene investigations or like trying to figure out where bodies are and stuff. Some of that's really interesting.
They wouldn't be used so often if it didn't work most of the time, if you think about it.
If I suspend my disbelief for a moment, those times could be difficult for people trying to understand the aberrant serial killer mind. But Anton Lavey had a gift for understanding people in general. So, it's possible if he looked at crime scene photos, he's like, it's the husband. You know what I mean? Or whatever. Like, he could have just been doing his cold reading thing, but he might have been so intelligent that who knows? It's definitely a great story. We do know Anton Lavey spent the 1950s married to his first wife, Carol Lansing, who would give him his first child, Carla Lavey. You good?
Carla actually ended up starting her own satanic organization in 1999 called the First Church of Satan, San Francisco. And then her sister or half-sister, Xena, ended up joining the Temple of Set and became a high priestess.
That's the one who looks like Taylor Swift.
It is her, if you're into the conspiracy theory stuff.
She just drinks a lot of adrenochrome to stay that young.
She's a clone.
Oh.
I think Xena just looks like Anton Lavey, but as a girl. I guess Taylor Swift kind of looks like Anton Lavey.
Want to just go on a rant and just say that they're all reptilians inside of human body clones, and everything we think we know about them is all lies.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
I don't know. Adrenochrome is a hell of a drug.
Woo!
Reptile blood is too.
I mean, no, they don't eat their own blood. They eat our blood. They eat mammal blood.
Eat their blood. I eat it.
Oh,
Gives you the Howard Deans.
the great equalizer, Malachor.
Prior to establishing the Church of Satan, Anton Lavey was a bit of a local celebrity, and known for riding around in an old coroner's van, sporting black cloaks, and walking his pet black leopard, Zoltan, casually down the street. Naturally, Anton attracted to himself a number of colorful friends, which he entertained vigorously at his painted black, mid-sized home at 6114 California Street, San Francisco, known as the Black House. It was within the Black House that the first Witches' Circle meeting began. A sort of loosely knit group of dilettantes of the occult, philosophy, and alternative art, which enjoyed his lectures on the occult and rituals. Like Jack Parsons a few decades earlier, Anton's neighbors eyed him with fascination and distrust.
Actually, I don't know what kind of man he is. His appearance is very nice. He makes a very good impression. He has a very soft voice and he talks so smooth, so pleasant. As soon as you meet him, you think he is a very, very nice man. But there is definitely something going wrong over there. I just have a feeling I can't trust him. There are women who are without clothes, naked, and the men wear a kind of black hooded robe. And sometimes from my window, I can see a kind of red light and silhouettes like devils. And one silhouette, a big one, maybe it's him, standing over the whole crowd and preaching.
This is funny.
This sounds like a Bible-thumping old lady that just, the kind that peek out windows and spy on their neighbors.
He's a nice man, but I think he does devil stuff in there, and I don't trust him.
Jack Parsons' neighbors were exactly the same, except they're like, well, he also works at JPL, so it's really confusing.
Yeah, some of the newspapers headlines were like, dudes like, I was drugged, kidnapped, raped, tortured by a satanic female witch cult in San Francisco, and it's like LaVey, it's an article on LaVey shit. It's like, come on, you pussy, you had a good time.
They held me down and sucked my dick. It was horrible. I came like 10 times.
Worst day of my life.
Worst day ever.
Are you guys victim shaming?
I don't know. The tabloids at the time were pretty hilarious.
Guests of the Black House included regulars Karen DePlessin, Michael Harner, Chester A. Arthur III, Forrest J. Ackerman, Fritz Lieber, Cecil E. Nixon, and the infamous Thelemite, Kenneth Anger, who, during this time, created Lucifer Rising, which was critically flawed by not giving ISIS any armpit hair.
That movie's rad, though.
It's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
To Kenneth Anger, there was a one-to-one relationship between Crowley's Aeon of Horus and Lucifer himself. Essentially, it's a movie about the rising of Lucifer in his aspect of Horus, like during this giant countercultural revolution. For these founding fathers of Satanism, the Aeon of Horus was just a slightly earlier expression of the same fiery satanic truths, which they now held in their torches. It was from this elite squad of weird brains that LaVey would form the Order of the Trapezoid, the governing body of the Church of Satan. The idea for a Church of Satan arrived after his most regular guests began to suggest that he had the basis for a new religion, which Anton decided in 1966 was worth giving the old college try.
Bet he got some advice from L. Ron Hubbard, too.
Well, if he had, maybe he would have made more money.
Yeah.
On Walpurgis night, April the 30th, 1966, Anton Lavey shaved off all his hair, proclaiming it year 1 Anno Satanis, the first year of the Age of Satan, thus establishing the church and announcing himself as high priest. While Anton claimed the shaven head was done in the tradition of ancient executioners, it is speculated that he had merely lost a bet.
Or maybe he went bald.
That's kind of his trademark look.
Either way, the look stuck, and Anton Lavey's forehead would forever become the highly reflective beacon of satanic philosophy.
The 9 satanic statements. This is from the Satanic Bible, which was written in 1969 by Lavey himself. 1. Satan represents indulgence instead of abstinence. 2. Satan represents vital existence instead of spiritual pipe dreams. 3. Satan represents undefiled wisdom instead of hypocritical self-deceit. 4. Satan represents kindness to those who deserve it instead of love wasted on ingrates. 5. Satan represents vengeance instead of turning the other cheek. 6. Satan represents responsibility to the responsible instead of concern for psychic vampires. 7. Satan represents man as just another animal, sometimes better, more often worse than those that walk on all fours, who, because of his divine spiritual and intellectual development, has become the most vicious animal of all.
Dun dun dun.
8. Satan represents all of the so-called sins, as they all lead to physical, mental, or emotional gratification. 9. Satan has been the best friend the church has ever had, as he has kept it in business all these years.
This guy made psychic vampires a household term. Like, think how common that is today. We all know what it means. He's the one who introduced it in its current form.
Yeah, that term, psychic vampire, putting it on, the 9 satanic statements, that's an interesting choice of words there. But yeah, psychic vampires are a real thing.
Oh, yeah. I think I kind of live with one. One of my roommate, he's very negative. In order for him to be positive, he has to be negative. His statements are usually hyperbolic and aggressive and whatever, but he's not very aggressive as a person. So there's that. And then it weighs on your emotions. I've known so many psychic vampires. It's weird because they emote in this fucking negative way. And it's very it feels like a black hole. Anytime you're around them, that, any kind of positivity or good outlook that you have is automatically scoffed at or thrown in the trash can by just the way that they act. And one thing that I have noticed about psychic vampires, if you're around one, it'll happen like this, where if you're having an extremely good day, they're having the worst day of their life. And if they're having a good day, your day is shit. It happens like clockwork. So if you know any people like that, where if they're up on a high horse, you feel bad, and vice versa, that's a telltale sign for me, at least.
Or people who do nice things for you just for the energy that they get back from it, and they kind of always keep you on a string.
And they give you gifts, especially when they give gifts, because they'll give gifts of things that they would like to have, but it's not something that you ever asked for or expressed interest in. And then they get offended when you don't use it.
Or if you don't need their help or something, or
yeah, they're fine. Well. I was just trying to be nice. God.
I think that's very true of part of the statements here, is that we're all pretty much like beasts, and we're the worst of it. So we are I admit it, we're all psychic vampires to some extent. And I've told my friends in the past to varying responses, but I'm I do use you, without remorse and with respect at the same time. But in terms of psychic vampires, you got to learn how to feed sometimes, because it's what's going to get you through the most important parts. You do kind of have to turn into a beast.
We feed with consent, though.
You just take responsibility for your actions and what you're doing, and you also learn how to balance it properly so that it's not actually affecting others.
That's straight up in the statements right there. I totally get it, negative connotation of a vampire, but also sometimes it's consensual too, or it's just unknown, it's unconscious feeding,
Yeah.
This podcast, we're like a blood pool for the psychic vampires. You can come and just take from us, I guess.
Did you call the audience psychic vampires?
No,
that's kind of rude.
We consent. We put our energy out there to be consumed.
It's consensual.
Right.
Sink your teeth into this podcast and drink of our tasty fluids.
But I really think that the negative connotation is specifically related to narcissism. If you really think about it, sociopaths or narcissists really are the negative connotation of that.
I think it also goes into in terms of Eastern practice, on receiving energy. It's not always you going out into the world. You got to learn how to hold the cup and catch the light water yourself. So,
yeah, being receptive, of course.
So that's somewhat the same as a psychic vampire to me. It's just a good one.
Well, we go back and forth though, and psychic vampires are the ones that they just constantly drink and they want more to fill their glass constantly. Whereas we are the ones we drink, but we also fill up glasses while we're drinking.
Well, that's like he said, responsibility for the responsible, right?
Mm-hmm.
Compared to the philosophy of Nietzsche, Lavey expounded an atheistic worldview, which called its adherents to deify themselves through acts traditionally considered sinful, and live in accordance with their natural inclinations, with unrepentant pride, lust, and vigor, taking full responsibility for the self, one's works, and the consequences of them. Anyone with enough patience to read through the tiny book discovered a sensible, practical philosophy for living in the modern world. In the present day, which is obsessed with AI-generated art and companionship, Lavey's ideas concerning artificial or robotic companionship being preferable to strangers, or maybe even bad friends, seems outright prophetic. One of the most important issues in popular culture is how our relationship, both current and future, will be to artificial intelligence.
So does being a psychic vampire to artificial intelligence or artificial life form of some sort, whether it's a game, are you any different? Like if you're finding some sustenance to carry on,
That's
still
the whole point. Is that you're not needing another person. You are getting sustenance from your toys rather than another person. And instead of seeking out a vibrant person to latch onto, you keep to yourself and you entertain your damn self. And likewise, you also don't attract psychic vampires to feed off of you. It's a cleaner transaction if you're just hanging out with your robot.
Totally makes sense though. Like I'm just showing the two sides.
Like
just wait till AI gains personhood and then you'll be back at being a psychic vampire again.
this kind of makes me think of like, instead of being a piece of shit to somebody, you just like, you're frustrated, so you just go and play some video games and shoot some people in the head in the video game.
It's good you bring up video games because they're inherently satanic, and we'll talk about why.
The Amish were right.
They were.
Wait, so are Quakers satanic because they don't shun technology?
No, Mennonites.
But Quakers are kind of like Amish, except without shunning the technology.
Oh, that's what Mennonites are too.
So, like, they're satanic.
Dun dun dun!
I think the Plymouth Brethren are like almost Quakers.
It's kind of impossible to not be satanic, and we live in the material world, you know?
Oh yeah, that just makes so much sense.
It's just not possible to be completely pure without suffering.
Friends of Lavey sometimes claim his later writings, like those in 1992's The Devil's Notebook, are a better representation of Lavey's general vibe and capture his personality better than the Satanic Bible. So we're going to jump into the future and read a little bit of that.
Luke shared some of this with me. I thought it was really good, actually.
So when the pomp and circumstance went away, this is sort of how he would talk and share his mind. On the importance of being evil, volumes have charted the history of man's cruelty and tyranny. How many have considered the essential role of villainy in human development? An impartial survey would no doubt qualify the villain as an unsung hero. While fusty religionists still cast Satanists in the old, convenient mold, the readily obtainable literature of contemporary Satanism has inspired change in religious thought. Can we expect such an admission by modern theologians? Of course not. It's always a villain, however, who becomes the catalyst for change. Consider these still fresh examples. If Aleister Crowley had not been the world's wickedest man, the like of Gerald Gardner and Margaret Murray could not have stepped on stage for purposes of enlightenment, and Dennis Wheatley might be a starving hack. They owe their identities to Crowley's outrages. If the Hell's Angels had not caused such a furor and had not been ritualized in motion pictures like The Wild One and Scorpio Rising, a clean, wholesome interest in motorcycling and its billions in profits would have never evolved. The glamour of evil, not fun in the sun, secretly spawned the present bike movement. Pollution reduction, economical transportation, all other rationalities for motorcycling are piety devices. If the late Senator Joseph McCarthy had not performed his auto de fe, there would be no movement for the politically correct. If Hitler had not singled out the Jews for discrimination, the nation of Israel might never have been realized. For every Charlie Manson, there are a million solid citizens who can bristle with righteous indignation over his crimes. The same fine folks who stand idly by while little old ladies being mugged in broad daylight, not wanting to get involved, invariably alleviate their cowardice by hollering their heads off for stronger legislation against crime. Remember, there's no misfortune so great that somebody else can't put up with it. A villain is said to be bad, but an apathetic drone is far worse. A villain must be stigmatized so that his opponents can be considered heroic. These heroes are simply reactors who implement a change in affairs sometimes mistaken for progress. What sets human reaction in motion? A force which is either intrinsically or contrivedly considered evil. Well, geez, why don't you just tell us what you really think, Lavey?
He's basically saying, like, it gives you something to compare to.
Well, villains are necessary because it teaches you about life and, like, give and take, right?
What he's saying is pretty dark to grok entirely. Like, there would be no sophisticated understanding of the criminal mind, quote unquote, and the ability to help people who show signs early on if it weren't for Ed Kemper going and doing those horrible things, turning himself in and then telling people how his mind worked.
Well, he's kind of saying like these villains have to exist. And in that sense, he said earlier, an impartial survey would no doubt qualify the villain as an unsung hero. Like, there's value in knowing the villain. And in that value, you could essentially say that the villain is an unsung hero just for how much wisdom you can gain from that.
Right. Like a teacher, like I said.
It reminds me a lot of Lynch, David Lynch, polarizing energy vibes. You know, the brighter the light, the darker the shadows. The better the world is, there's going to be an underbelly aspect to it that's just going to be equally devastatingly evil. I think this is an indirect way of saying that there is no good or evil, and it's kind of like just do the do, but take responsibility for it.
And if you get called evil in the process, it's probably because you're making people get off their ass and do something in one way or the other.
Actions have reactions, and you're kind of responsible for that too, even if it's a good thing coming out of your evil act.
Yeah. Like, you have to remember all of this stuff that he just said. He also tells you have to take responsibility for your own actions and the consequences of your actions.
When I was ignorant of Satanism and what it actually meant, I mean, I agree with a lot of the tenets of it, to be honest. But, you know, taking the responsibility is the number one thing that made me realize, okay, this is actually a good teaching. Because, I mean, if you go outside and you start aggressing a stranger and then someone comes and puts you on the floor, you should have seen that coming. You shouldn't go, like, mess with people, you know, that didn't fuck with you first, basically. If you go out and you act crazy, if you bring terror on people, then you better expect that you're going to be incapacitated pretty quickly. And you brought that on yourself. Like, it's your own responsibility.
That's even one of the satanic aphorisms by Lavey, is that if you're walking about the countryside, don't bother anybody. And if someone bothers you, tell them to f off. And if they don't f off, then you can f them up. Mm-hmm. Basically just ripping off Liber Oz by Aleister Crowley. So,
well, I can totally get on board with that. I mean, turn the other cheek is good for minor things, but I don't really think it's necessarily, I would go beyond that and say that, violence is acceptable or certain behaviors are acceptable if they're provoked.
I like fighting. It's fun.
Like, it's okay to indulge. It's absolutely okay to indulge. But if your indulgences end up bringing you into a up scenario or screw you up or screw other people up or have crazy ramifications for their actions, then you have to accept that that's you. You did that.
It's on you. Yeah.
I indulge. If you haven't been punch drunk before, like actual punch drunk, get in a fight and then you get this like buzz. I like it. It's good. You should try it sometime. No alcohol involved. Just get in a fight until you start feeling funny and giggly and then hang out.
When people get fighty with me, I duck and cover, man. And that's why I don't start fights.
Hey, well, do you.
In regards to the new normal of working from home, living in virtual environments, or just being an otaku, there's this idea of the total satanic environment, which prescribes a Satanist to create a space cut off from the natural, objective, or public universe, in which one is entirely surrounded with objects and environment which exist purely to selfishly gratify and please its inhabitant.
Sounds like my studio.
I was going to say that just sounds like my house that I never leave.
I genuinely love the idea of the satanic total environment. It's not too dissimilar to the idea of a burial tomb for the pharaohs, really.
I agree. I want a Bob's Big Boy statue when you enter my mansion in the future.
Yeah.
I want a bunch of donkeys.
And so, like, having the wacky house with all your favorite stuff in it that's supposed to make you feel good, that's a huge, huge part of being satanic.
Like Tony Montana.
The house I used to have before I moved to Vancouver, I had every single room was a different theme just because I felt like it. Like, I had a tiki hut themed studio. I had a Japanese themed living room. There was like a seaside kind of theme, a naval theme in the kitchen. It's just like shit that I wanted to do, and it felt good to be around, and it was not there for any other purpose other than because I liked it.
So Animal Crossing, totally satanic.
This totally reminds me of, like you were just saying, Animal Crossing is a virtual space. A lot of people have like houses or chat rooms in 3D virtual space that you can, embellish with certain objects or whatever, or colors or lights. And man,
lights.
Yeah.
Oh, man, virtual real estate's going to be crazy.
It's going to be huge because this is a perfect place to do this.
Yeah.
That's the satanic environment, dude. Like,
yes. It's
going to be people with headsets like, oh, I'm over here chilling on Hollywood Boulevard, like, and I paid for this virtual experience only experienceable right here on the corner, like, because this is my favorite bar, and I like to be in augmented reality here, and there's going to be like flying around. I don't know, but
It's coming. It's coming.
I had a virtual chat room at one point when I was a teenager, and the name of the chat room was Penn Island, and it was in like a visual game, so you'd go into like this world.
Penis land?
Yes.
Oh,
So the trees were all dicks, and then like where you would sit were like ball sacks, and there was a river of cum, and like a little bridge, a limp dick bridge that you could walk over. Man, it was so fun.
oh, dude, a limp dick bridge that looks like a drawbridge, and then you have to get it hard to cross.
Yeah, no, but it was funny because I would upload it to the main world, and people would come in like, "What's Penn Island? Is there pens everywhere?" And then I would just troll them because they'd come in and be like, "Ew," and leave.
It's just a thelemic lodge.
I really like how the total satanic environment can exist within VR or outside of
Yes.
VR, like in real life as well. Like you want to have like crazy colored lights just because you like crazy colored lights. Cool. Do it. Or, do it also in a digital space. I think that's really neat.
I've had this idea for a bit. Like, you can only enter my club if you have a VR set and you're like a subscriber, basically, to wear your headset in my bar, and you see all the dragons and shit walking around and battling, and you change up the nights or different themes. But I think that's like a really cool cyberpunky idea. It's just like virtual bars. And
Well, I like that you are grounded in real life, that people meet up in real life and do that.
oh yeah, it's just
Yeah.
augmenting reality.
Augmented reality. Yeah, that's cool.
Your
But-
bartender's like a fucking furry.
Hell yeah.
Like you go to Shambhala or Burning Man, and that's absolutely a total satanic environment.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
Go listen to the Joe Rogan episode where he interviews the Dark Lord, John Carmack, when he talks about virtual reality. And look at the excitement on John Carmack and get a feel for what this total satanic environment means to him. This is the guy who invented first-person shooters in Doom.
Damn.
This is why I say video games are entirely satanic in and of themselves. Each game is a total satanic environment where people indulge every sort of fantasy purely for the sake of self-aggrandizement. This is why I love video games. The more cookie cutter they become, the less satanic they are. They're supposed to be power fantasies. You're supposed to be who you want to be. You're supposed to go to the places you want to go and not be restricted by nature or the natural world in any way. Imagine a future where two people that never leave their house. They're not really the best looking people physically. Maybe they're even in poor health, or they're so old that they're failing health, but they can go into a virtual world and be young again and fall in love and meet somebody there.
This is also why D&D is inherently satanic. Because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like you can just drop yourself into a world that's just like a complete fantasy world, and you can be whatever character of your choosing.
Yes.
What class you want to be, what race you want to be. That's like before video games really took off. That was like the original.
And not only that, but it's important to be affirmed by other people socially. So your D&D group, quote unquote, would be the other people that are logged into the game. It's the same thing. Is that someone looks at you and they're like, "Oh my God, it's a level 60 mage with the highest class armor and weapons." It's like, yes, that's me.
Well, you got to roll to inspect him, and better have like high enough knowledge. You're just gonna be like, well, this guy looks cool, but I don't know what the hell he's up to, and he's really got like this enchanted robe where if you touch him, your dick falls off.
Perception check.
Yeah, perception check.
But what I'm saying is it's more pleasurable also if other people are involved and they respect your fantasy and they kind of play into it. It's playful and it's fun and it makes you feel better,
At the end of the day, nature gives you circumstances. It says, oh, you have these genitals. Your skin color is this. Your parents have this much money. You live in this part of the world. This gets rid of all of that shit. Yeah.
Big finger to it.
You could even experiment with things that you know what I mean? You could be whatever you want. So
You can just insert yourself into an environment like that, and you can also share that with others, like Anton Lavey did, or Aquino did.
Lavey's Black House was a total satanic environment itself, which, once inside, entirely blocked out all sunlight and made it dizzyingly easy to lose track of time. Guests of Lavey's recount days and nights spent playing music, conversing about philosophy, art, or magic, admiring many of Lavey's various physical relics and oddities, but most importantly, watching movies, and discussing their deeper ideas, symbols, or gossip associated with them. Apparently, this was huge. in the witches' circle, early satanic church, was hanging out with Anton in his black house in the Purple Room, which was a big movie theater where you just drink and smoke and enjoy having a conversation about the movie you're watching and being like, oh, this actor or this mythology, or isn't it interesting how anytime the bad guy gets ahead in life, all the ignorant masses have to tear him down and destroy him. You know what I mean? Like, they would get all philosophical about it. And this was their bread and butter.
This sounds a lot like the Black Lodge.
I feel like my old house really could have been like this, and that's probably why people wanted to come over, and I just wasn't social enough to embrace that at the time.
Even without God, Anton and his people, who picked up what he was putting down, discovered a liberation of self and a magical current capable of fulfilling dimensions of desire formerly relegated to fantasy, or palate religious metaphor, to a Satanist. Life itself was magical. Life itself was the great indulgence, and death, the great abstinence. Looking back with a more critical eye reveals a mystery regarding Anton Lavey's beliefs about magic, and swirl around what would become a deep rift in the Church of Satan, which would eventually lead to its slow decline in the wake of a prominent splinter group breaking off. Part of what made Satanism so compelling, at least for some people, was the promise of theurgic powers denied them by mainstream religion, and inaccessible occult orders clogged with pretense, self-delusion, and incomprehensible psychobabble. Opposite to what happened in those places, satanic magic seemed to, even in a backdrop of unrepentant atheism, seemed to exhibit spooky action at a distance and spectacular effects, both desired and undesired. In short, it worked. But why? How? Was it sponsorship with the devil or something subtle and psychological? In a stance typical to later authors of chaos magic, Anton Lavey concerned himself primarily with how it worked and didn't worry so much about why or concern himself with justifications for it. The first magical ingredient to make a spell work was an extension of the principle of the total satanic environment, which imagines the ritual space as an intellectual decompression chamber.
Yeah, and a lot of the beliefs that I've had, even just like LARPing and kind of imagining something going on with your intentions and creating a space that's holy or whatever, it doesn't matter what the ritual is, it doesn't matter what recipe book you use or what order you're in. It seems to work regardless if you have enough intuition behind it and like you put enough mental power into it. So
if you really feel it, if you're really about it, it works better.
And that's why I got into chaos magic, because I understand like it could be anything. It could just be like nonsensical random objects that you assign meaning to, and it would still work.
Well,
so I think I'm just saying, I think that the imagination, the power of intention is probably the fundamental force working here in both aspects.
This power would later become called the Black Flame. Anton says, the formalized beginning and end of the ceremony acts as a dogmatic, anti-intellectual device, the purpose of which is to dissociate the activities and frame of reference of the outside world from that of the ritual chamber, where the whole will must be employed. This facet of the ceremony is most important to the intellectual, and he especially requires the decompression chamber effect of the chants, bells, candles, and other trappings before he can put his will and willful desires to work for himself in the projection and utilization of his imagery. The intellectual decompression chamber of the Satanic Temple might be considered a training school for temporary ignorance, as are all religious services. The difference is that the Satanist knows he is practicing a form of contrived ignorance in order to expand his will, whereas another religionist doesn't. And if he does know, he practices that form of self-deceit which forbids such recognition. His ego is already too shaky from his religious inculcation to allow himself to admit to such a thing as self-imposed ignorance.
Then he says, magic falls into two categories, ritual or ceremonial, and non-ritual or manipulative. Ritual magic consists of the performance of a formal ceremony, taking place at least in part within the confines of an area set aside for such purposes, and at a specific time. Its main function is to isolate the otherwise dissipated adrenal and other emotionally induced energy and convert it into a dynamically transmittable force. It is purely an emotional rather than intellectual act. Any and all intellectual activity must take place before the ceremony, not during it. This type of magic is sometimes known as greater magic. Non-ritual or manipulative magic, sometimes called lesser magic, consists of the wile and guile obtained through various devices and contrived situations, which when utilized can create change in accordance with one's will. In olden times, this would be called fascination, glamour, or the evil eye.
Like folk magic, right?
Now, you can even see here, there is a crack in the atheism. He is saying lesser magic is when you just cause change in conformity with will, when you use your wile and your guile. But he's saying greater black magic is when you find a way to subjubertify your emotional situation about what you want in the ritual chamber and dissipate all of the attachment and the need to have it and like act it out in such a way that you don't even need it or want it anymore. Then it actually comes to you as if by magic. Like this is supposing that there is some metaphysical or quote unquote magical thing that does happen in a satanic ritual. He just doesn't like ascribe it to a god or like being pure or something like that.
Yeah, some people started to see like they had a bit of a problem with the way that Lavey approached it.
The part that you read, Luke, you were talking about like a forced ignorance and stuff, and it reminded me of going into like a childhood state of like back to not knowing in the name of like to learn something new.
Yeah.
Like they say, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, right? So if you need something to change and you need to learn something new, then the magical operation of being childlike and activating that intelligence within you starts to show its benefit. It also reminds me of a quote from probably my favorite poet, Charles Baudelaire, and he says, "Genius is no more than childhood recaptured at will. Childhood equipped now with man's physical means to express itself and with the analytical mind that enables it to bring order into the sum of experience involuntarily amused." So it's pretty much saying that like the greatest mind is like that of a child having fun, but like with the power that a grown-up has. Like if you can go back in time and change your past, so to speak, imagine that power in that.
The playfulness, right? The playfulness aspect. And I think the rituals are to get you into that mindset. But I think it's false to assume that you can't do that at your will.
No, it's man's will back into the like state of a child having fun. Like there's nothing better than that, almost.
You know the Hermetic saying you don't bring the dagger to the ritual chamber? That's what it's the same thing. It's an old adage where you leave your mind out of the ritual chamber. Keep it at the door. You've done your planning. You've planned your evocations, whatever. When you get into the chamber, it's showtime. You're not there to think. You're not there to like memorize. You're there to express these energies and in the satanic sense, like live them out, simulate them. Do what you can in your ritual chamber to make you feel as if you've already lived your fantasy so that you're satisfied. Only once you're satisfied and don't want it anymore will it come to you.
Weaving spiders come not here. That's the motto of Bohemian Grove.
Well, that's what it says outside on their plaque, yes.
Yes, and it's from Shakespeare's Midsummer's Night Dream. It implies that you're not supposed to do business when you go into that club. Like all of the intellectual, regular, everyday crap, it's forbidden once you walk inside.
Yeah, you could call Bohemian Grove a proper satanic ritual in that sense, but so is Burning Man.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these events are, but we need them to actually live in everyday life. We need a break from that.
Almost like what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
They even call it recompression or decompression parties.
Mm-hmm. Like leaving a submarine underneath the ocean, you have to decompress or you get the bends. Like, you need some time to get out of it.
Not unless you're a Navy SEAL, I guess, because they do some wild shit.
Thus, greater magic changed the self, while lesser magic manipulated others, both for a desired result. The exact mechanism or metaphysical law which enabled it were kept to a practical simplicity, while empowering it first. This proved to be an issue of some consternation between members of the church. Lavey's collaborator and member of the church, Michael Aquino, comments on this exact issue. By these criteria, then, the Church of Satan was not a church in the precise sense of the term, nor did it worship Satan as an existential being in its own right. Rather, it was atheism with psychodrama. And, as Truzzi correctly observed, that was something which could credibly be argued to skeptical audiences. There was, however, a problem. Satanists participating in rituals of black magic quickly became aware of an interest or influence in the atmosphere of the chamber, which felt somehow alien to their own personalities. The pageantry and the oratory would fade into the background, and the participants would find themselves gripped in a sensory empathy so piercing, so powerful, it would leave them exhausted, drained, or shaken at the conclusion of the rite. It was not a chance occurrence, but an inevitable, recurring one. After such experiences, participants were subdued, introspective, and disinclined to exchange comments on their feelings. There was perhaps even a slight feeling of embarrassment, as though one had somehow slipped from being a proper psychodramatic atheist. And Anton Lavey was himself the most familiar with this sensation. His behavior during the ritual was not of an actor, nor of a megalomaniac, but rather of a high priest in the sincere sense. In the public, and to less experienced Satanists, he would continue to excuse the Church of Satan as atheism with frills, but alone with intimates, he would speak of Satan, the Church, and of his own office therein with the greatest reverence and respect. He did not believe after the fashion of the ordinary mystic or fanatic. He continued to have a healthy contempt for such types. It would be more accurate to say that he had achieved a very deep understanding of a remote, rarely penetrated part of existence in which intelligence and will, besides those of mankind, actually exist. Nor did he worship this other essence. Rather, he empathized and communed with it. And so these two forces, the atheistic and the satanic, coexisted in varying proportions for the entire duration of the Church of Satan. One would expect them ultimately to conflict and provoke the final crisis, but that did not prove to be the case. The atheistic argument entered that crisis only as a latter rationalization, for by that time it had long ceased to be taken seriously within the Church. And if you'd like to hear about Michael Aquino, the rise of the Temple of Set, please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where your monthly donation of just $5 will get you access to all our extended shows. I'll even send you a 5x5 vinyl sticker of our cover art and access to our Discord server. Thank you, everybody. Eat carrots and shoot lasers.
Pew pew!